Where the hell was she? Gone 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve and she wasn't home yet. Did she think he was that much of a fool, did she?
Edgar Kirby ground his teeth, his hands gripping the wooden arms of the old armchair he was sitting in, so that his knuckles showed white through the skin. The chair was one of 2 positioned either side of the fire in the black-leaded range in a kitchen that, although shabby, was spotlessly clean. Some effort to mark the season was evident in the paper chains criss-crossing under the ceiling, and the grate held a good fire of glowing slack and coal that the draught from the chimney kept bright. 2 gas mantles on one whitewashed wall hissed and popped now and again as they shed their limited light over the room, and the smell of the pot roast in the oven was mouth-watering. Anyone entering the kitchen would have been struck by its simple coziness, from the thick clippy mat the armchairs stood on, to the sunshine-yellow flock cushions positioned on the battered 6-foot wooden settle set against the wall opposite the fireplace. A natural homemaker lives here, they would have thought, as their eyes took in the yellow curtains at the window in the same material as the cushion covers, and the small earthenware pot of white hyacinths in the centre of the scrubbed table. Someone with the touch of making the most wretched surroundings comfortable. And certainly this terraced house, like the ones surrounding it in the tight grid of streets in the heart of Sunderland, was as poor as they come. Edgar sat immobile for a few minutes more, staring at the fire but without seeing it. Instead, his mind was full of moving pictures of Molly and the man she worked for, lewd, explicit images that burned against his eyeballs and caused a rage that brought him to his feet, whereupon he started pacing the room, his hands clenched fists. A creaking of the kitchen door brought his head swinging round to see his 9-year-old daughter standing in the doorway, her younger brother behind her.
"Is Mum home yet?"
It took all his self-control not to shout at them to get back upstairs, and his face must have revealed what he was feeling as he watched both children take an instinctive step backwards. It was this that curbed his tongue. He knew they were frightened of him, or, if not exactly frightened, then certainly wary, he thought bitterly. Abby had been barely 3 years old when he had left in the summer of 1914 for the front, anxious to do his bit in the war before it was all over, and Robin a babe in arms. When he had returned from the conflict, he was a stranger, to them, to Molly, even to himself. The unspeakable things he had seen and had had to do, how could you go down into the depths of hell and not be changed? And the noise, the incessant screaming shells, the mud, the blood. Edgar jerked his mind back to the children staring at him as the roaring in his head that accompanied thoughts of the war became louder. As though it was someone else speaking, he heard himself say, "Why aren't you asleep? Them stockings," he nodded at the 2 hand-knitted red stockings hanging limply either side of the range, "will have nowt in 'em come morning if you don't go to sleep like good bairns."
"We wanted Mum to tuck us in."
"Aye, well, doubtless she'll come up once she's back. But she won't be best pleased if you 2 are still awake, now will she? Now get yourselves to bed and no more coming downstairs, all right? I mean it, mind."
Abby bit her lip. She wanted to say that her mam wouldn't mind if they were still up, not on Christmas Eve. It was a special night, the night when baby Jesus had been born and laid in a manger, with all the animals around him, and the shepherds and wise men worshipping him, and the star over the stable lighting up the sky. But she didn't. Her mam had told her that their da was poorly. They must always remember that, her mam had warned, and never do or say anything to trouble him. He would get better, her mam had gone on, but it would take time, and they had to be careful never to cheek him or argue, but always to do exactly as they were told and to be quiet when he was in the house. Her mam had added that last bit after one day in the summer when Robin had been jumping on his bed and had fallen off with a crash loud enough to wake the dead.